Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Great to have you with us. I'm Jane McCarthy. First up tonight, new gun laws in Washington state and their impact on the agencies responsible for enforcing them. Local police departments are now responsible for running enhanced background checks on gun purchases.
KREM 2's Amanda Broly checked in with Spokane police to see how they're keeping up with the task. She joins us live in the studio tonight with what she found. Amanda?
Yeah, Mark and Jane, we've been looking into how and if voter-approved Initiative 1639 is affecting gun retailers in Washington state. Now, the manager of sharpshooting told me, to their surprise, the Spokane Police Department is completing enhanced background checks faster than the newly required 10-day waiting period. Initiative 1639 requires this waiting period for pistol and semi-automatic rifle purchases, and now local police departments are responsible for conducting background checks on those purchases. All provisions of the law have been in effect for about 6 weeks. Officer John O'Brien says so far its records department is keeping up with background checks despite the increase in workflow.
Well, our background personnel are working very hard to keep up with all the requests that are coming through, and so far the process seems to be moving along pretty well.
Part of that process includes a mental health check, a new state requirement, which means while the police department runs a criminal history check, it will also reach out to the state health department for a mental health evaluation check. Even so, the department is currently able to complete these background checks within 5 to 10 days. Now, gun retailers say July and August are the two slowest months in the firearm industry. It starts to pick back up in the winter months, closer to hunting season. Officer O'Brien says the department does not anticipate a drastic increase of enhanced background checks by then, or at least enough to backlog its records department. Of course, we'll be checking back in to see how things are going. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Amanda, thank you very much. Now to a look at our Two on Your Side investigation into bulletproof backpacks.
Several stores across the inland Northwest are now carrying them, and right now as kids get ready to head back to school, so we partnered with a local gun expert to put those backpacks to the test.
And look at this now, completely misshapen.
Oh, good night. So you can see how deformed the panel is. The more deformed the panel, the more significant the impact to the wearer and the more damage. And blunt force trauma, I mean, on a small child, that would be incredibly significant.
You can see the rest of the story coming up tonight on KREM 2 News at 6 o'clock.
Well, there's now a permanent director of the Spokane County Jail. Michael Sparber was appointed to the position about a month ago, but he led the jail since February.
KREM 2's Ian Smay sat down with Sparber to find out more about his path to becoming director and his plans now. Here's part one of that interview.
What's your criminal justice background?
So I've been employed with Spokane County Detention Services since 1988. I started off as a corrections officer, worked my way to sergeant, and then spent about 10 years as a sergeant, and then worked my way to a lieutenant. Then I spent a period of time as a lieutenant, and then got promoted to assistant director, and then ultimately director. So total of 30, going on 32 years.
And would you say your time working up the chain that prepared you for being the director?
Absolutely. I know about every function that goes on in the jail. I've been virtually worked at about every area of the jail and some outside of the jail. Along with that, I've been involved with the Spokane Regional Law and Justice Council and involved with the Justice Reform Acts and some of the things that are taking place and the initiatives that have gone forward. So I try to stay focused on the courts, heavy involvement with the courts, along with the justice community, the law enforcement, and then my core competency, which is the jail function. So.
All right, and you were telling me earlier that you're from Spokane. Can you just describe, how you grew up? You went to high school here.
So I was born here in Spokane, and I ultimately went to Shadow Park High School, go Highlanders, and then I went into the military, served in the Army National Guard for 6 years, and then at the completion of that, some friend of mine said, "Hey, you should take the test for the jail and see if you can qualify for it." So I did, and worked through my career here up to the point when I was a sergeant, and then went back to college. I went to Eastern Washington University and graduated there with a degree in business administration. So, yeah.
All right, and so what is the most interesting part about being a jail director?
Well, definitely the diversity. There's something different going on every day. It's just my involvement with the staff that we have. We have fantastic staff members here, and just being a part of their lives and helping them to, make their working conditions the best that I can do. And also, it's a diversity within the offender segment as well, and my interaction with them and trying to help them through, which is quite honestly the lowest point of their lives when they're in jail.
All right, so then what would you say is the most rewarding part of the job?
Having my staff go home after a tour of duty, safe to their families, and doing my best to make the environment here, a safe environment for not only the offenders but all the staff as well. And then my involvement with the community has been super. I love interacting with the community. They're our stakeholder, one of our primary stakeholders. So anything that we can do to help, make their experience a little bit better, while they have a loved one incarcerated, those are the type of things I think are rewarding.
Well, Sparber also spoke about other issues like future changes to prevent drugs from entering the jail, and he addressed inmate medical care as well.
We'll bring you part 2 of that interview tonight on KREM 2 News at 6 o'clock. Turning now our attention to the forecast, we're seeing fairly calm conditions across the inland Northwest.
That's right. Tom Sherry standing by in the Weather Center with more on that, Tom.
And I've just checked it. Our air quality is good, and it's forecast to be good again tomorrow. All that rain over the weekend knocked down the smoke and certainly dampened down those fires as well. So look at the beautiful sky out there. Remember this time last week we had that brown haze in the air, and at times our air was unhealthy. It's 82 degrees, absolutely beautiful late summer weather. Winds out of the northwest at 8 miles per hour. The satellite and radar picture shows some Doppler radar activity north of the border. It is dry across the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to get great sleeping weather tonight too. Open up the windows. Let Mother Nature cool you off tonight. 55 the overnight low. Should get up to 85 tomorrow. We'll look for plenty of sunshine again on your Wednesday, and as we head into the weekend, 85 Saturday. Slight chance of lingering showers Saturday because we have a slight chance of maybe a little rain or thunderstorm on Friday. We'll talk more about that with my 7-day forecast. But in the meantime, we'll show you Sunday, sunny and 86. More details coming up.
We'll take that, Tom. Thank you very much. Idaho is seeing a spike in hepatitis A cases. So far this year, there have been 44 hepatitis A cases. They may not sound like a lot, but it's a 550% increase compared to 2018 when there were only 8 cases. Experts say the virus is a nationwide problem.
And Spokane has also seen an increase in hepatitis A cases. 13 cases have been reported in Washington, 9 of those in Spokane County. Health officials say most of the people infected in our area live without shelter or they use illicit drugs. So now the city is working to get those people better access to sanitation. Hepatitis A is a very contagious liver infection, but it is preventable and treatable.
In other news, why are so many endangered southern resident killer whales losing their calves? University of Washington researchers are trying to learn how to help through whale scat. While trailing a whale near the San Juan Islands, a rescue dog sniffs along the way, and when she smells the scat, she sends an alert.
Her body gets really tense, and it can just be a very quick jolt like that, and then she does this thing where she'll kind of crane her neck like that.
Well, scientists test the material for information about stress and nutrition and failed pregnancies. They found a whopping 70% of pregnant southern resident females miscarry their calves.
And out of that, 23% of those pregnancies are late-term pregnancies, which are very costly, energetically costly for the female, and also dangerous for the female because the bigger the calf, dead calf in these cases, the harder it is to give birth to a dead fetus.
Researchers already know the whales are underfed. The southern resident orcas only eat fish, and their preferred diet is Chinook salmon, which are also on the decline.
Yeah, lights went off, it got completely smoky, so we had to kill all of the fryers and the flat top in the kitchen.
Well, the lights are back on in Coeur d'Alene after a surprising power outage last night. There wasn't a storm, yet close to 12,000 customers lost power. Some restaurants even had to close early.
Avista is blaming a problem at the Coeur d'Alene substation. As KREM 2's Taylor Vito explains, the power outage left local dispatchers fielding a flood of calls.
I had to rush to sell all the food because I didn't want it to go cold.
Okay, look, by no means was it the end of the world last night at Crafted in downtown Coeur d'Alene, but the outage did leave the bartender fixing cocktails by phone flashlight.
What's up? How are we doing over here?
Oh, thanks. I can see.
The popular restaurant was unexpectedly left in the dark along with thousands of other customers last night.
A few minutes passed and I realized I wasn't going to, so I was just trying to get everything out of the kitchen as soon as possible.
The kitchen fans weren't working, causing it to get a little smoky back there. Ultimately, Crafted had to close a couple of hours early.
The cashier went out with a little square device to then kind of send people home.
The outage hit at 6:30 last night and at its height left nearly 12,000 customers without power. The outage lasted until after midnight for about a quarter of all those customers. Now, Avista says it was all caused by an equipment failure at this substation off of 15th Street. The company says they were able to reroute power to thousands of customers using an emergency plan. But before that, many confused customers called 911. The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office says their dispatch center was swamped during the outage with 911 calls. In the first hour of it all, 114 people called here. That prompted the county to activate its emergency management office to help take the calls. Too many 911 calls asking about a power outage can create problems for other 911 callers seeking more immediate help, the sheriff's office says. So less than a day later, the Crafted team is glad the lights are back on, all is well again, and they're certainly happy that the outage didn't happen during a weekend. In Coeur d'Alene, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.